Hey guys, as you can tell, I have a new pack, and it's pretty exciting. I'm just going to go over some of the features of the Zpacks Arc Haul with you. First impressions, it has an excellent, I think, transfer of weight to your hips, which is where you want a lot of the weight to end up being when you're carrying a pack. I just have 22 pounds or so in it right now. If you get a new backpack, test it and walk around your neighborhood. I can't go out to the woods or the trail today, but walk around your sidewalks, load up your pack, and see what it feels like. Stock is about 24 ounces. How I have it configured, it's 27 ounces. The two additions I've added to it are the key pouch, which is on the inside, as well as these two hip belt pockets right here. So some of the great things about this pack, and I've been testing it pretty extensively since I got it 2 weeks ago. Pretty much every night I've been going out on neighborhood walks, of course, and walks around my local state park, just trying to see how fit and feel are, just because they give you 30 days to go ahead and try it out and kind of return it for pretty much any reason, especially a fitting reason. And so some of the basic things on here that I really like, first of all, this front mesh pocket is great. I had it on my Osprey Exos for kind of drying things out. Things I don't care about getting wet tend to go in there. I chose the Arc Hull instead of the Arc Blast. The Arc Blast is made of kind of this hybrid Cuben Fiber, I believe, whereas the Arc Hull, it used to be made of a Dyneema type of fabric. What this is it's called as their gridstop fabric, and it's a little bit more durable, a little bit more abrasion resistant than the Cuben Fiber hybrid. So that's why I opted for this. I chose the black, of course. I liked some of the other colors, and they looked okay, but they weren't anything that was kind of doing anything for me when I thought about it. And I just wanted kind of something that kind of blended in. It was either between this or the green, and I opted let's go with all black gridstop. The big thing about the Zpacks Arc series, you notice right away, is the arc of the pack. And you can see right now, the optimum arc Zpacks says is about 2.5 inches, and you see there's more than enough room. And how this works, and I'll show this in a future video, is you kind of push down on the pack, pull on this tab right here, and you tighten it up, and that arcs the pack. And it gives you a very similar arc. They call it arc, and it's patent pending, but a similar feel to the Osprey with their kind of airspeed or airflow system. And I really like that in the Osprey packs, and I wanted to make sure I had it on any pack that I had. I will say that the mesh trampoline, if you will, doesn't feel as durable as, let's say, the Osprey does, but it works pretty well. Tried it and it's pretty comfortable. It has the exact same effect as the Osprey did, so I really like that. Some big things at this pack that you'll notice right away is it's actually bigger than my Osprey 38 by far. The main pocket of this pack is about 49 liters, and that's, I was able to get everything in my Osprey 38 easily. And so in this pack, I can fit a lot more stuff in there, and it has a higher weight capacity. So if you think about my Osprey 38, it usually is rated to a higher end, about 31 pounds, whereas this is rated to a higher end weight of about 40 pounds. And so it's lighter and it holds more. So, for me, that's a win-win. So I really opted for this because of some of those features on there. Another big thing about this pack is that it's really highly water resistant. Zpacks doesn't call it waterproof, of course, but I have taken it out in rain several times now already since I've had it, just to check to make sure there's no moisture that gets in, and nothing has gotten in. Probably what I'll continue to do is I'll probably continue to put a plastic pack liner in there, or use a dry stuff sack for those items that I don't want to get wet, like a down sleeping bag, a down quilt, down jacket, anything down, of course. You want to make sure it stays absolutely dry. And so, talking about being kind of waterproof, all the zippers, I talked about how seam taped it is on the inside. All the zippers on this pack, so the hip belt pockets, which are humongous, by the way. So if you think about my old pack, I'd say we're about half the capacity of this hip belt pocket. This is huge. I was able to fit kind of a beanie in there. I was able to fit gloves, my cell phone, all in one pocket, which is really great because this pack does not have a top lid, or the brain of the pack, if you will, So I'll be using the hip belt pockets even more than I usually do, just for storage. But they are completely kind of seam taped or sealed, and so it should be highly Osprey packs. What it had was a really, I love the front-facing pockets on the Osprey Exos series, because I could just reach with my arm, grab that water bottle on the go. I didn't have to ask anyone to get my water bottle out for me or kind of contort myself to get at it. And so one thing I really noticed once I tried this on, I wanted to make sure that I could still do that, because that really is an underrated feature on a lot of packs that people don't think that that it's important, but I do. So while I'm hiking, I tried a bunch of times to make sure I could grab this water bottle, and how they're cut and they're oversized, these can easily fit a 1 liter smart water bottle in the side pocket. And there's room for additional things as well. So if I wanted to put up my trekking poles, I could put it in there. And honestly, I usually don't put up my trekking poles while I'm hiking, but it is an option. You can fit your cook kit in there. It's really, really large. And so I did it. I had no problems kind of reaching to my water bottles while I was hiking around, kind of testing this pack out. So the sizing that I chose in this pack, and that's probably one of the most difficult things when you're ordering it, because it really is a somewhat custom made pack. And for me, so I'm 6'1", and I wear a 36 pant size. And so for me, I measured, I'll leave the video down below where Zpacks talks about how to measure your torso and your waist for the hip belt. But for me, this is a medium torso and a large hip belt. Because when you think about my torso, and I measured it, it was right about 21 inches, which is perfectly right in the middle of the torso range that they give for the medium torso of the pack. But the hip belt I thought was the most confusing, because I'm a 36 pant size, but they talked about measuring to make sure that you measure where your pack would usually sit, and for that I was about a 38 to 39 inches where I would usually wear the pack. So be really careful when you're talking about sizing, or when you look at sizing. Is kind of my overall point. You want to make sure that it fits you well, and that it's comfortable. And that's why I'm kind of in the middle of testing this out. And those of you guys who follow me on Instagram will see I've been walking around my neighborhood, just trying to make sure I get the hours in, the miles in, to kind of get a good sense of what this pack will feel like, hour after hour, mile after mile. Another big positive about this pack is that the belt is attached to the frame. It is removable and interchangeable, and that's one thing I like about it, is that you can actually share this pack among multiple people if you have different size belts, and so that's kind of handy and something that's really important to consider if you're considering this pack. It has some typical things like this kind of compression style straps, and you just cinch it up through this line lock right here, and it does a nice job of kind of keeping the pack and your load kind of well balanced. The last thing I want to mention is that the belt is just amazing. This pack has excellent transfer of the load you're carrying to your hips, which is really a lot of what you want. You don't want a lot of the weight of the pack to be on your shoulders at all. You actually shouldn't feel a whole lot of downward pressure in your shoulders. Maybe a light forward pressure where your straps of your backpack are kind of pulling on you, but most of your weight actually should be on your hips, and that way you make sure you have a more comfortable hike. And one thing that the Zpacks Arc Haul does incredibly well is transfer that weight properly to your hips. What it does is that it's a 4-way kind of cinch system. Most packs, what they do is they kind of have one simple cinch, and that's it. That's kind of all you can do. You can lock it down what you feel like at the time, or I thought was pretty good. But the Zpacks Arc Haul does a nice job. You have 4 points of contact on your hips, and you can really lock in a load pretty tightly and make sure that there kind of minimizes any pack sway. You want to make sure that you lock it in, and really it's not going to go anywhere. It is really comfortable. I'm not going to promise you that when you put this pack on, load up to 40 pounds, like you're not going to feel it. I've always felt whatever weight I'm carrying, I'm always like, yep, I'm carrying about 23 pounds, or I'm carrying this much food or this much water. I can tell. I really can't stress this enough. If you're considering this pack, the belt system alone, I think, is pretty unique, and it does a very nice job of making sure you carry that weight comfortably. Just one feature that the Osprey had that I kind of wish the Zpacks had, and maybe it's not something that they've considered as yet, but The Osprey had loops on the ends of their straps, which sounds like a silly thing, so it just kind of was stitched back on itself. So kind of like that. And that just really made it handy whenever you wanted to cinch something down. You just kind of put your thumbs through and be able to push in on it. And sometimes I find myself honestly putting my thumb there because that's what I'm used to, but I really do miss that. It made it easier to kind of lock things in and push things in place wherever they need to go, and that's really handy. Doesn't have a top lid, compared to the Osprey, but what it does have, and I'll put this down so you guys can see better, it does have a roll top and Velcro. And so, like I've said, this is a huge pack. This is 49 liters in the main pocket, and so I bet maybe I'm out of frame by now. I don't know, but you can see how large this is. The arc looks really good. Something you might want to consider is actually making that arc larger than you would think, because what happens when you load the pack up is that pushes closer towards that mesh backing right there. And so I actually made, that's about 4 inches, I'd say. They say 2.5 is about a good arc, but when I load everything in there, I pack it in there, it tends to push closer to that mesh. That's why. But this pocket, this main pocket, is huge. You can't really, I'm used to an Exos, a 38 liter, and you can't really describe what it's like looking at this overall pack. The total, I think, is about 62 liters, but the main pocket is 49 liters. And it's entirely seam taped, and they did a really nice job with this pack. And so to kind of get it all done, and there is a buckle that you can clip over the top to lock down your kind of load even further. And one big thing I'm really impressed by the Zpacks arc haul is it's obviously made by hikers, kind of for hikers or people who backpack, because it seems like they've thought about a lot of different things and how things work best for them, and they've just kind of presented it to the hiking community. And this pack is not a new pack by any means. It's not a new design, but they've kind of been evolving and kind of getting good ideas and incorporating good ideas into their future kind of evolutions of this pack and different models from year to year. And so they've really done a nice job, an incredible job with this pack, thinking a lot of different things through and cutting down a lot of the weight just purely because of the fabric. But it's kind of a home run for me so far. I'm looking forward to getting out on the trail, trying it out this year, and seeing how it works. Thanks for watching, guys. If you're not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and click subscribe and click that little bell so you get notified about every new video that comes out. And it's pretty helpful when you want to know what I'm up to and where I am.